Hello everyone, I am Rahman. Now I would like to make a video on Scrum artifact. This video will be helpful for the people or the professional who are looking for to sit the PSM exam or PMI-SCP exam or CSM exam. Our objective is to help the aspirant so that they can easily pass the exam. So, Scrum artifacts. The artifacts represent the work and value. The artifacts that are used in a Scrum that represent or shows the work or value, they are designed to maximize transparency of key information. Thus, everyone inspecting them has the same basis for adoption. Each artifact contains a commitment to ensure it provides information that enhance transparency and focus against which progress can be measured. For the product backlog, it is the product goal. For the sprint backlog, it is the sprint goal. For the increment, it is the definition of done. This commitment exists to reinforce empiricism and Scrum values for the Scrum team and their stakeholders. Now, we are going to discuss the first artifact, that is the product backlog. The product backlog is an emergent ordered list of what is needed to improve the product. It is the single source of work undertaken by the Scrum team. So, for the Scrum team, the question can be asked, what is the source for the Scrum team for their work? The answer is the product backlog. The product backlog is the single and only one source for the Scrum team to do their work. Product backlog items can be done by the Scrum team within one sprint, are deemed ready for the selection in sprint planning event. They usually acquire this degree of transparency after refining activity. Product backlog refinement is the act of breaking down and further defining the product backlog items into smaller, more precise items. That means the product backlog item should be breaking down or decomposing more manageable item so that team can easily manage that activity. This is not a one-time activity, this is an ongoing activity. To add details such as description, order and size, attributes often vary with the domain of the work. The developer who will be doing the work are responsible for sizing. That means the question can be asked, who will be responsible for doing the sizing of the product backlog? The answer is the developer is the responsible for the sizing. The product owner may influence the developer by helping them understand and select trade-offs. Commitment. Product goal. The product goal describes a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against. The product goal is in the product backlog. So, where the Scrum team can find the product goal? The answer is in the product backlog. The rest of the product backlog emerge to define what will be fulfill the product goal. The product is a vehicle to deliver value. So, product is considered as a vehicle which is delivered the value to the organization or customer. It has a clear boundary, known stakeholder, well-defined user and customer. A product can be a service, physical product or something more abstract. So, what can be a product? Product can be a service, a physical product or something more abstract. The product goal is long-term objectives for the Scrum team. They must fulfill one objectives before taking on the next. Then the next artifact, that is the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is composed of the sprint goal. Why? The set of product backlog items selected for the sprint, that is hot, as well as an actionable plan for delivering the increment, that is how. The sprint backlog is a plan by the developers. The question can be asked, who create the sprint backlog plan? So, answer is the developers. It is highly visible real-time picture of the work the developers plan to accomplish during the sprint in order to achieve the sprint goal. Consequently, the sprint backlog is updated throughout the sprint as more is learned. It should have enough detail that they can be inspect their progress in the daily Scrum. Commitment sprint goal. The sprint goal is the single objective for the sprint. Although the sprint goal is a commitment by the developers, who question can be asked, who is going to give the commitment for the sprint goal? The answer will be the developers. It provides the flexibility in the term of exact work needed to achieve it. The sprint goal also creates coherence. The sprint goal also creates coherence and focus, encouraging the Scrum team to work together rather than on separate initiatives. The sprint goal created during the sprint planning event and then added the sprint backlog. As the developer work during the sprint, they keep the sprint goal in mind. If the work turned out to be different than they expected, they collaborate with the product owner to negotiate the scope of the sprint backlog within the sprint without affecting the sprint goal. Then the last one, the increment. An increment is a concentrated stepping stone towards the product goal. An increment is a concrete stepping stone towards the product goal. Each increment is additive to all prior increments and thoroughly verified ensure that all increments work together. As we know, Scrum is working as a iterative and incremental approach. So, every sprint is create an increment. That increment should be added with the prior increment, thoroughly verified, also ensure that increment will work together. That means incremental approach will be there. In order to provide values, the increment must be usable. Multiple increments may be created within a sprint. So, not only one increment will be not created from a sprint, multiple increment may be created within a sprint. The sum of the increments is represented at the sprint review, thus supporting empiricism. However, an increment may be delivered to a stakeholder prior to the end of the sprint. The sprint review should never be considered a gate of releasing value. Work cannot be considered part of increment unless it meets the definition of done. Whenever any work does not meet the definition of done, that does not become an increment. Whenever we consider any work as an increment, that must have to meet the definition of done. Commitment definition of done. The definition of done is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measure and required for the product. When the work meet the quality requirement, that times we will say that that is an increment. The moment the product backlog item meets the definition done, it become an increment or an increment is born. The definition of done creates transparency by providing everyone a shared understanding of what was completed as a part of increment. If a product backlog item does not meet the definition of done, it cannot be released or even presented at the sprint review meeting. So, whenever any product backlog item does not meet the definition of done, we should not present that product backlog to the sprint review meeting. Instead, it returns to the product backlog for further consideration. We have to transfer that product backlog to the product backlog item. We need to transfer that item to the product backlog item for further consideration. If the definition of done for an increment is a part of standard of the organization, all Scrum team must follow it as a minimum. So, when any organization have an defined or a standard definition of done, that time the Scrum team must follow that as a minimum. If the organization does not have any definition of done or standard, the Scrum team must create a definition of done appropriate for that project. The developers are required to conform to the definition of done. Question can be asked, who will require to conform the definition of done? The answer is the developers. If there is a multiple Scrum teams work together on a product, on a single product, there is a multiple team. So, they must mutually define and comply the same definition of done. If there is a number of Scrum team working for a same product, then all the team should have a same definition of done. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this video will be helpful for the aspirant who is going to sit for the PSM, CSM or PMI SAP exam. Please subscribe our channel, that will motivate us to create more video for